Yeah, it is a mixture of joy and also of humility, because it is a day that I take the responsibility of the Church of God in this nation of South Sudan, which is torn apart by violence, wars, and many of the Christians are either displaced within the country, staying in the UNIMIS camp, or have gone to refuge. And those are the kind of flock that I'm about to take their responsibility. So it is not an easy task, but I hope that the Lord who has called me will enable me to go through. Yeah, right from my youth, I enjoyed serving the church, cleaning, doing all those things in the church, and singing, praising the Lord as a youth, until I was licensed as a lay reader, of which that humble service, I learned it as a lay reader. And at the time of my priesthood, it was at the time when violence was actually on the rise in South Sudan. And I committed myself to preach the gospel to the rebels, by then the SPLA movement, and so that they might not mistreat their own people. That really has helped me a lot until when I was elected as the Diocesan Bishop of Maridi. And being a Diocesan Bishop in Maridi, where there are many ethnic groups with different languages, and my experience of managing them, bringing them closer to one another, has really helped me a lot to handle diversity. So that is a gift that I'm bringing to the province, and I hope I will use those gifts, by God's help, to unite and reconcile the church and the people of South Sudan. Yeah, from human point of view, it is difficult, because indeed, most of the population of South Sudan, I may say 80%, are displaced, either internally displaced or staying in the UNIMIS protection camps, or either have crossed the borders into refuge. And what gives hope, looking back into the Bible, where most of the prophets were serving God during hard times, so that gives me courage that we have to sacrifice ourselves and our life to move around to search for all God's flock wherever they are, whether in refuge or in the bushes or in wherever they are displaced, and also the remaining ones who are in their own place but starving and living difficult lives. So from spiritual point of view, that's where God calls his servants to minister to his people. And I pray that the Lord will empower me and use me for his own glory in that. Yes, I can see the challenge of resources. Where will the resource come from to move around South Sudan, to visit the displaced people, and to visit those in refuge? And also, as Jesus said, you yourself give them something to eat. How can I encourage these hungry people? So those are some of the challenges, but with trust and hope in God, it will be possible. Here, in all the history of our suffering as South Sudanese, one thing we are proud of is the moral and spiritual support of our Christian brothers and sisters around the world. And that has helped us a lot. Otherwise, we wouldn't manage all the troubles we are going through. And at the time of my installation, I'm really encouraged by the neighboring primates coming to show their solidarity and support to us. I very much appreciate that. And the challenge only comes when they all go back. Then I begin to receive all different kind of news, hearing all different kinds of suffering. That's where the challenge increases a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I was extremely happy about that, because that is a demonstration that we are not forgotten. We are loved by our spiritual fathers, both in Vatican and in Canterbury. So for me in particular, I'm glad about what the Pope did. And why some people are complaining? Because as James says, faith without action cannot work well. I think some people are complaining that yes, there is that verbal prayers. Why can't there be a practical action to bring all this suffering to an end? I think that's where the complaint is, and that's where the worry is. Yeah. As a Christian, and having learned from the Easter story, I'm hopeful that there will be an end to all the sufferings, to all the conflict in South Sudan. And my prayers and encouragement is that the warring parties should be reminded and pressurized to look into the suffering of the citizens, but not always to put their own political will first. So that is the only thing which I pray that the Spirit of God should remind them to look into this suffering and be able to negotiate and put an end to the conflict. Yeah, as an incoming primate, my hope and prayers is that we have the role to intensify the gospel teaching in this nation. Because as we talk of violence, we talk of wars and all this, that also is a symptom and demonstration of how shallow the gospel is in the hearts and minds of our people. So my priority will actually be in making and teaching disciples. And in doing that, we will be able to reconcile our people, disarm their minds and hearts from all those thoughts and actions of violence, hatred, and all those such kind of things. So we will take it a priority to preach and teach the gospel to all our people, to our politicians, and to all Christians throughout South Sudan. That is a priority. As we do that, we will also continue with peace and reconciliation, because we know we have hurt each other. Many bad things have happened, so the church have to take lead and to say as Isaiah says, we should come and reconcile with our God and with one another. So that is something we will take it serious. And the third thing is also we'll continue to advocate. We do know people have suffered. There is a lack of social services to the communities. We will continue to lobby and advocate to our Christian brothers and sisters around the world that if they are in position, they should help the church in South Sudan at least to fight disease, to fight illiteracy, to fight hunger and poverty, which is so rampant amongst the Christians in South Sudan. And though it has become monotonous that South Sudanese has always been asking for help, when will that end? But it is a situation that has made us that way. Maybe God also is testing Christians around the world, that they have, whether their sympathy, their love will run out of stores or not. So we will continue to look to them, that they help us, they help our communities, so that we are able to provide education, health services, and other services to this community. And also we will emphasize on prayer life, because instead of complaining, we should give ourselves into prayers. So praying continuously, as the Bible says, until God one day, one time, will reverse our situation. So encouragement to prayer is something many Christians think it doesn't work, because with the invention of all the technologies, the internet and all this, where you press something and immediately there is a result, people no longer believe in prayers. But that is something we want to emphasize in the Church of South Sudan. Yeah.